Today we're going to talk about why your business isn't being successful. Over the course of the week, since I haven't been releasing content, I decided that I should talk about the E-Myth Revisited. So our entire discussion is going to be around the E-Myth Revisited. In this video, we're going to try to get an understanding of what the entrepreneur myth is. And if you want to read the book, The E-Myth Revisited, it's a book written by Micheal Gerber. I hope I've said his name right. He's the author of the book and he's known to be the guru of business, the guru of small businesses, because of how he understands small businesses and how he gets them to become successful.
Why most businesses don't work and what to do about it, and the fact is that most businesses don't.
Now, if you own a small business or you already have a business you're running, this video is for you, because even when you have a business that's already up and moving, you're probably facing some problems that you need solved. Now, when we're in high school, we were taught that an entrepreneur is someone who starts on a business when they are in sole control of that business. In this case, whether they make losses or they make profits, whether they understand the ins and outs of the business, they're in sole control of their business. And to clarify our understanding of an entrepreneur even further, here's the dictionary description of an entrepreneur. It says, an entrepreneur is a person who organizes and operates a business venture and assumes much of the associated risk. Right away from the dictionary description, it's very clear that almost every description says that a person goes into business. But when you're understanding business, at least based off the E-Myth Revisited, it said that not only one person is meant to, run a business. And we're going to see why in a second.
The E-Myth is the entrepreneurial myth. And the entrepreneurial myth is at the foundation of every single business problem you will uncover in every single small business.
So what is the E-Myth? It says that small businesses are started by entrepreneurs risking capital to make profit. And based off Micheal Gerber's description of why people go into business, at least from his argument, he says this isn't true. Entrepreneurs don't start businesses simply just to make profit. There is more to that. You read a number of books on business and entrepreneurship and none will make sense as much as the E-Myth Revisited does. And this is simply because your frustrations are never given much attention as Micheal Gerber does. First off, he describes a person who goes into business, and with this we pick off where the problem actually starts from, why someone goes into business. So before a person starts a business, there must have been some dream, some expectation, something that got them to start a business. Usually when you're doing something, there's always a reason that's backing it up. Now, one of the things that can get you to start a business, at least in my point of view, is watching, videos, talk. Nowadays, the media is filled up with so much talk that you can be caught up in all of that, mess. And you can easily throw yourself into a deep hole that you won't be able to get yourself out. So some people may start businesses, at least in my understanding, if I was to start a business way back, at least not now since I read the E-Myth Revisited, I would probably start a business, probably because maybe I watched a video on YouTube of someone giving me, this motivation, giving me this hype for me to start a business. And most of the times when you're being told to start a business, you're usually met with this idea that you need to start now, so that you can learn, the disciplines. But this is the thing, when you start a business, you're doing it, with all your emotions, you're doing it you're really putting yourself into it. So your entire self is put into the business and you're risking, mental breakdown, because if you're putting money into a business and it's not really getting you somewhere, you're most likely to, isolate yourself from people, because also shame comes with that as well. So, understanding why you get into business really gives you an idea of why your business probably won't be making it through the first 5 years or even making it to the first 5 years. So that's based off what I think your driver for starting up a business is. Now Michael says maybe it was the paycheck you received on a Friday afternoon. You were called by your manager and you received the same paycheck, yet you did a lot more in your business, and you decided to say to yourself, damn, this is very little money. I need to get myself out of this job. I need to find a way to make more money by starting my own business, right? Or a sideways glance that just didn't sit right with you. It might have been even a feeling that your boss didn't really appreciate what you're contributing to the business. So you felt, this disturbance in you that said, hey Fiona, go and start your own business. It could have been anything and it doesn't matter what. But for apparently no reason, you are stricken with an entrepreneurial seizure.
If it's not an entrepreneur, Who starts that business down the street? Well, what I'm going to suggest is that it isn't an entrepreneur, it's a technician suffering from an entrepreneurial seizure.
Now, what's an entrepreneurial seizure? An entrepreneurial seizure is a state a person goes through before starting their own business. Now, this state can go in one of many ways. You start to think about the independence you will have once you start your own business. The idea of being your own boss, doing your own thing. The thought of running your own business becomes endlessly irresistible. Now, whenever we're approaching Christmas, we're always met with excitement because, we're going to be given these presents. We're going to, interact with family members. We're probably going to go out. There are so many things that you expect whenever you're going to do something new. And that's the same with starting a business. You always have this idea of what you're going to meet when you start your own business, the accomplishments, the word of mouth that people are going to spread around because you have your own business. So, it also brings about some kind of pride when you start your own business. And this is where the problem comes. That's why, Micheal calls it the entrepreneurial seizure. It's a state that you go through, that state that really blinds you from some of the red flags that are met with people who start their own businesses. Once you're met with an entrepreneurial seizure, there is no relief. You must start your own business right now, right away. This is where you start to think to yourself, if you don't start your own business, you won't feel good about yourself, which eventually leads to the fatal assumption. And what is the fatal assumption? As Micheal says, in the throes of your entrepreneurial seizure, you fall victim to the most disastrous assumption anyone who goes into business can make, and that is, if you understand the technical work of a business, you understand a business that does that technical work.
Knowing how to do the work in a business has nothing to do with creating a business that works.
Say you're a carpenter, or a hairdresser, or you're a barber, and you're working for someone, and you're probably doing the work that you're assigned very well. You're making very good furniture, you're cutting very good hair, and then you're stricken by an entrepreneurial seizure. It leads you to think to yourself of the nice things that will happen once you start your own business. And after, you make the fatal assumption that with your skills in making nice furniture or cutting very good hair, you can start a business that does the technical work. Micheal argues that when someone is starting a business, they're starting a business based around the skills that they have. You're starting a barber shop because you know how to cut hair. But the thing that you don't know about is how to run a business. As we're going to see further in this discussion, you're going to realize that running a business isn't just all about having your own, place that you're running your barbershop from and you're getting customers coming in. There's a lot that goes into running a business.
Just because you own a business doesn't mean you're an entrepreneur. In fact, in most cases, you're not.
A business that is meant to thrive is not run by one person. And with every person that goes into business, Micheal talks about the three persons, which are the technician, the entrepreneur, and the manager. Now, let's talk about the technician. The technician is the doer. If you want it done right, do it yourself. If you've been to a bakery before, you'll see how precise a baker is when they're making their cake. They can't help but seek perfection in every single cake that they make. Their main goal is to make the best cake ever. Or a cook in a restaurant, or striving to meet the needs of a client with an astonishing meal. They work steadily and they're happiest when they're in control of things, when they're in control of the workflow. When they're doing something, that's when they're happy. Thus, they're mistrust for those they work for, because the people they work for are usually trying to get a lot done than there is actually time for. The manager, the other person in you. The manager craves order. Without the manager, there would be no planning, there would be no predictability, there would be no order in the business. The business wouldn't be running as swiftly as it's supposed to. Like the way you go to Cafe Javas and you're attended to the very same way every single time. At the entrance, you're met with those waitresses who lead you in and offer you this book with what they're offering at the restaurant. So, the way things are run, how they're run consistently, these are some of the things that the manager is there to foresee and make sure that it happens every single time. The manager is a problem to the technician who seeks art in the field. The entrepreneur is the innovator, the world-bending strategist, like Sudhir here in Uganda, or Ham, the owner of Ham Towers. They think of a business idea and seek to start that business in which they assign a technician to carry out technical work, like a doctor in a hospital, and a manager to oversee the day-to-day workings of that business. What's clear here is that they don't involve themselves with the running of the business. They just set up the business and they put these people in to make sure that the business stays afloat, leaving them room to think of other business opportunities that can increase their portfolio. That's why they're entrepreneurs. Unfortunately, as Micheal says, a small business owner is only 10% entrepreneur, 20% manager, and 70% technician.
Most businesses you walk into aren't businesses at all. They're a job for the person who started it.
If it's true that within each business person there are 3 personalities rather than 1, can you imagine what a mess that makes? You will see how one part of you craves a sense of order while another part of you dreams about the future. You dream about expanding your business, maybe opening up other branches. You will see how another part of you can't stand being idle. There's that part of you that wants to, create, that part of you that wants to do the work. You own a restaurant, but you want to cook the food in the restaurant. Or you open a barber shop, and instead of putting someone to run the barber shop, you instead want to do the cutting of the hair. These conflicting interests in a person who is in business is a struggle that they continuously go through, and because you don't know what you're doing, you keep yourself in this rabbit hole.
If you could find a way to produce a business that works without you, your life would change like that.
Understanding the different character traits and interests of the 3 persons can be key to how your business is run and how your business will thrive. Now, to understand the 3 persons even further, let's take a look at the 3 phases that you have to go through, that a business goes through before it actually thrives. And the first phase is the infancy phase. During infancy, Micheal says the business owner is the business. Juggling all the balls, making sure that everything is getting done, making sure that, customers are meeting their needs, making sure that the books are up to date. You still have that hype that you've started your own business, and therefore you make sure that you keep everything working. You make sure you keep everything, going as it's supposed to go. It's easy to spot a business that is in infancy. The owner and the business are one. It's even named after you. Mutebi's Pork Joint, Joe's Place, Sarah's Restaurant. So the consumer won't forget that you're the owner. You make sure that your name stands out in front of, your new place, your new business that you've opened up. If you remove the owner from an infancy business, there would be no business. The business would simply disappear. And since every business has an immense amount of work to get done, time comes and the inevitable happens. The work becomes overwhelming. The business becomes your boss. You sought out to open your own business because you thought you were going to be the boss in your own business. You expected all this pride, and now that you're running your own business, you met with the other side of business.
I am my business, everyone says. If it weren't for me, there wouldn't be a business, they say proudly. But what happens when you don't want to do it anymore?
You find that you have so many customers walking in and you have so many things to get done. If you're owning a restaurant, even if you're owning a barber shop, so many people are coming for haircuts and you have to meet all their needs. If any of them gets tired of waiting, you're going to, face it rough. When reality sinks in, most technicians lock their doors and walk away from their businesses. The rest go to the adolescence phase. Every business must grow into the adolescence phase. Micheal says, every business that gets into the adolescence phase gets some help. You seek some help. And what kind of help do you seek? You seek technical help. You seek help from someone who has experience in what you're doing. It's very evident in most small businesses. Someone who is a barber will obviously look for another barber to help out in the business. You're looking for technical help. That's why I told you earlier that Micheal will paint a picture that looks almost identical to your kind of business. I mean, I've had some people who are running a business and, them talking about how they want to get someone else to work in the business, and they will be talking about how they are going to get someone who is doing the same thing that they're doing. It's kind of the same pattern. You're owning a small restaurant and you want to get some help, you're going to look for someone who also cooks food.
Because the biggest problem in small businesses is we build a business around people rather than around functions. We build a business around people rather than around functions. And when a person leaves, the business collapses.
There's a lot that goes on in the adolescence phase. It's actually the biggest phase. I can't explain everything that he talks about in this phase, but if you want to know much about the adolescence phase, I would suggest that you read the book so that you can understand the discussion he talks about. After you've got some help, how this person you've added into your business, you start overloading that person with a lot of work because you want to free up some time for yourself. There's a lot that he talks about in the adolescence phase. Moving on to the last phase, which is the maturity phase. This phase of a business's growth is exemplified by some of the best businesses in the world. Businesses such as McDonald's, Disney, KFC as well. A mature business, as Micheal says, knows how it got where it is and what it needs to do to get where it wants to be. Therefore, maturity is not an inevitable phase of the past 2 phases, because most people don't foresee and don't plan for how the business is going to be run and how the business can stay afloat. They just get into business because they know a skill, and at the end of the day you find you facing all these troubles in the business, yet you could have easily foreseen them if you understood how to run a business. And at least for those who are watching this video, at least you're getting the idea of what a business is and how a business is meant to be run. At least I'm trying to paint a picture. You probably still have questions that you need answered, but most of those answers you'll get them in the book. Businesses like McDonald's and Disney didn't end up as mature companies. The person who launches his business as a mature business goes through the adolescence and the infancy stage, but they just go through those phases in an entirely different way. It's the person's perspective that makes the difference, the entrepreneur perspective that makes the difference. What is the entrepreneur perspective? The entrepreneur perspective says it's not the work itself or the commodity that is important. What is important is the business, how it looks, how it acts, how it finishes what it is intended to do, and what unfortunately most people who go into business do not do. Therefore, to the entrepreneur, the business is the product.